Good morning, guys. Time for a quick little fall garden tour. Let's go. So we're preparing the ground for our greenhouse. Very excited. Lots of work to come. And I'm really looking forward to using that. Alright, so these are like a tennis ball variety of zucchini, and they've been having real issues with pollination. All of my squash have been having trouble with pollination, but they seem to be especially difficult. They are starting to finally size up now. And evidently next year I need to put my zucchinis on a taller trellis, maybe a wall of some kind that I can actually clip them up to, because they definitely overgrew quite a bit and it's a little hard to find things. The cherry tomatoes are doing really well. There's one. I'll be ready to pick tomorrow, or ready to eat tomorrow. So with the cherry tomatoes, I'm not doing any pruning on them. I'm just letting them be for the rest of the year. I am putting out a video on the tomato pruning I'm doing today to help encourage ripening, and all about the ripening temperatures and stuff. So that'll be a quick little video. It should come out today as well. But the cherry tomatoes aren't getting that attention because they grow quickly enough that they might actually set some of these flowers, and might as well. So I've got lots of peas. Now, peas don't need any special treatment in order to collect seed from, so these are all being allowed to go to seed. I really want to start up a seed swap in my community, and I think the best way to start it is to try and bring as much to it myself as I can. I'm trying to get that started for spring. So we've got lots of peas. This is a dalve. They are very good at climbing and vining, and they hold themselves very upright. Things are doing well. The peppers are pretty loaded. Cucumbers have been really productive. The carrots have been a little overgrown, but they're actually quite large, so I don't need them to get any bigger. I'm just going to leave the carrots in the ground until it freezes at least once. They'll sweeten up a little bit more that way. But I can try and pull one up. Last time I tried to pull one up, it was a disaster. Now, for perspective, they're pretty big, I think. It's got to be, 8 or 9 inches on those. So they're looking pretty good. I'll have some roasted carrots for supper. Just in there for now. So yeah, the carrots are looking pretty good. The corn here is developing. My one issue is it doesn't look like it's got any blue in it at all. Although it looks like it's pollinated well, and this one's growing right out of its cob, which could be a bit of an issue if you have a lot of pests. But doesn't seem to be too pest-ridden, but I am a little concerned that it's not going to have the blue color that was advertised. It could be that mine cross-pollinated with something else in my garden, or one of the other corns in the garden. So, peppers are doing pretty well. These peppers are alright. The peppers with the melons under the cover are doing really, really well. And these dry beans are looking really good. They've got a really nice girth on them already, so they're bulking up in there. These are dry bean Jacob's cattle. All of the broccoli got pulled out except for a few that we're saving for seed. And you can see the marigolds again. These beans need another picking. They haven't been as productive because the weather's been cooler. So the blooms have definitely slowed down. But if we get another week or two of nicer weather, then they'll perk back up again. There you can see our broccoli seeds making flowers there. Tomatoes are doing all right. Definitely starting to ripen. I think I'm going to take off one of those terracotta. They look like they're just about ready to go. It's just a bit cool outside for them to be ripening. You can see my pak choi is covered in seed pods, so should have a good crop of pak choi seeds to bring to the swap and also for next year. The kohlrabi has not impressed me this year. Some of them are pretty gangly. Some of them are alright, but not terribly impressive, so they're alright. And most of the giant onions have been taken out. I took the biggest one that I had to the fall fair and got a prize. And my leeks have been doing well. A couple of them sent up flower stalks, and I cut off all but 2 of the flower stalks. I would like to save some seed, but I don't want to have my leeks put all their energy into flowers towards the end here. I'd like them to maintain their leaves instead. My cucumbers have been rambling all over the place and producing and hiding cucumbers that get giant. But we've had consistent enough moisture that they're not getting bitter. So the bitterness of cucumbers comes from moisture and heat stress. So we haven't had the heat to stress them out, and we've been getting fairly consistent moisture, so they've been nice and sweet even when they've been a little larger than I would have liked. And the leeks are doing really well. I'm very pleased with the size. I did pull one up the other day. It was blanched really nicely, nice and deep. And these are my storage carrots. It's a nice size. It's about the size I want for storage. So I'm actually tempted to sort of knock the tops down to try and encourage them to not bulk up at all. But I still want to leave them in the ground until they've had a frost. They sweeten up quite a bit then. And our dry beans here are doing well. This is Cherokee Trail of Tears, and then on the other end we have Mother Stollard. I haven't seen much beans in that area, but as you can see, this fence is bending under the weight of the plants, so I'm going to need thicker stalks next year for this variety. So I'm not seeing a lot of beans on this. A lot of blooms right now though, so hopefully if we get good pollination, get some good bee activity, we should have a good set. I just hope they have enough time to fill out in the season that we have left. And our long beets are looking good. Should be a nice crop. I think I still have a fair few canned from last year, so I probably won't do much pickling this year. But I will keep them in the refrigerator or in the cold storage as long as I can, and store them like most other root crops, and they should be alright. These guys have not been producing a lot of beans. Again, this is a pollination issue. But not all the bees like these big flowers. And these beans are going to be a little difficult to pick because they're just, well, it's a hedge of beans, and it's a little hard to see where the flowers are, let alone the beans. So this is going to be fun. Definitely need to make some adjustments to my structures for future years. As you can see, this pole, thick as it is and as deep as it's pounded into the ground, has been pulled out of position by the weight of these beans. So note to self for the future, these beans are going to need a wider spacing so that I can actually see through them and also pick the beans. And yeah, that's a pretty dense growth there. All the onions are in except for a few of the onions I left out here to seed. We've got some, I think that's a shallot. We've got some multiplier onions. This is a storage onion from last year that I wintered, and it's still flowering. I just want to prop that one up. Got some multiplier onions going to seed as well. So we should get some good onion seed for next year. Hopefully I won't need to buy any. Turnips are very buggy in the leaves, but I think the roots themselves are looking good and fine. The snow peas have actually still been blooming, but they're producing such small, short little things, and well, this mess has just laid itself on down. I'm leaving it just for a little while longer because I would like to, again, collect seed. And I think some of these have a little bit more maturing to do before they can dry. But in the next week or two, or if we get a frost, then they'll all get pulled out and the plants will just get laid down somewhere where they can stay dry, and then I'll be able to pull off the pea pods. And as you can tell, my corn has been bandied about in every direction. The wind has blown it, and unfortunately that also means that the roots have been, on some of these, the roots have been pretty well mangled as well. But we are still getting some that look like they're making cobs. So given enough warmer weather, we'll be all right. The flowers in here are looking lovely, but I definitely want to plant them more densely next year. I'd like to see more flowers in here. And also, next year the tomatoes are going to be a little more tamed. So, video today about pruning the tomatoes. You can see there's my haul of beginning to ripen tomatoes. I'm going to pull all of those inside and ripen them indoors. A lot of information crammed in a very small bundle in that video, so check it out. So I think my pepper, or my melons seem to have finished sizing up. I think they would have gotten larger had we had more heat. I think it's just been too cold for them, so I'm hoping they're ripening. And I've just been watching both for the tendrils nearest the vine, or nearest the melon. I'm watching for the spot on the bottom to get a bit more yellow rather than this creamy white. But I think it's going to be a good melon. And got a few more cantaloupe that look like they might actually have enough energy to fill out. And this cantaloupe is actually looking really good, and I've been watching him for signs of slip. So in a cantaloupe, when it's ripe, there will start to be a crack. Under there are a whole bunch of peppers, but I'm keeping them covered. And the point of the cover there is to try and hold in as much heat as possible to encourage them to fill out and ripen as much fruit as they can in the season that we have left. The pumpkin patch is doing pretty well. Starting to show a little bit of signs of cold weather stress. There's a nice cootie squash. Yeah, for the most part they're doing well. Weather's not really on our side for them, so they are getting covered somewhat. As you can tell, the covers have been blown off. I need to secure them a little bit better. There's a nice blue one over there. Anyways, we'll give a more in-depth video when we actually go to pull off all the fruit. And that, depending on the weather, might be another week or another 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how cold it gets and how near frosting it gets. It is, however, time to start pulling up the garlic, but I think I need a fork for this. Loosen the ground. They're nice and deep, so that's good. Gonna replant them in a different spot next year, or for next year, because I want to do some changing on the layout of the pumpkin patch. So these are going to get put in a different spot for next year. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see ya.